All right, for anyone curious and for my own remembering, here's how my patch is set up for this first real patch and song that I've made with all my stuff right now. So I've got the Mini Boot 2S, Varigate 4 Plus, and Platts all working together on this. So let's start with VCO2 because it's kind of always going. VCO2 is being programmed by Mod 1 track on pitch mode and Mod 2 track on envelope mode. You can see I've got all of them going, and pitch wise I've got E flat D C, E flat D C, E flat D, and then on here E flat D C, G F, E flat, E flat D. So so a little change in the second half. Interesting things happen with that when we get up to the Varigate 4 Plus. And then slightly longer envelopes on the 1, 4, and 7 to give some interesting sounds with that. So both of those are controlling VCO2 by being patched in. Mod 1 is then, of course, being patched to the pitch input of VCO2. And then VCO2 is coming out and into our VCA in the corner here, which is being controlled CV wise by Mod 2 track, controlling the volume of that. It's being sent out of there and then into the metalizer. So out of the VCA into the triangle wave track, into the triangle wave input, output of the metalizer going into this attenuator spot, and then output of that going into the master. So this is always playing when the sequencer's on. This is always playing, and this is the knob that turns that up. One thing to note, I do have to plug in the dummy cable into the cutoff point for the filter so that the pressure Mod 2 track doesn't affect the cutoff point once I get going. So that's VCO2 playing my main melody, or my background melody. I think kind of switched spots, but so that's going on there. And then everything else is being controlled not by a sequence, but by having the arpeggiator on and then playing it. Oh, one other note, this Mod 1 track is also set in minor, so that as I transpose it later in the song, everything stays within the minor key as I'm going through it. So that's VCO2. VCO1 is being controlled, as I said, by the arpeggiator. And I change the speeds of that in here. So we've got my sawtooth wave that I don't really have much going on, but I use that in there. Square wave that has its pulse modulation, pulse width modulation being modified by LFO1, which is on square wave mode to give some interesting rhythms lined up with the sequence as we go through that. And then I don't use the triangle wave because that is, of course, being used by VCO2. And then white noise, and the external is where some other things get interesting. So up here, we have Varigate 4 Plus in using 2 gates out of it, and then Platts. So Varigate 4 Plus is getting my clock out of the Mini Brute, which make sure that if ever you stop the Mini Brute, you also hit stop and restart on this so that they both start back at the beginning, because otherwise the Varigate will just be waiting on whatever step you stopped on, even divided by a 16th note because of how it gets its clock input. So input, the pink one here is set on a really simple one where the 8th step just has about a 50 or 70% chance of kicking off to reset this pattern. So that's going into the reset here in the sequencer area, which sometimes will reset it halfway through the measure. Instead of letting play its full thing, it resets it halfway through to add some interest in changing to the VCO2's melody. Then channel 2 here is set up pretty similar to how you see here, 100% probability on the first step, a little bit around step 5 and surrounding that beat 3, and then some on that last 8th note or 16th note of whichever it is, I can't remember. And that's all going to trigger Platts. So Platts is being triggered by this interesting rhythm here and pitched from the keyboard. So its pitch is going to be the same as everything else in VCO1. On whether I'm arpeggiating a chord or just an individual note, it's getting those pitches and then sending that out into the external slider. So that's how everything is set up and run. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed.